Okay, so I'm going to read the introduction here to Sefer HaHikayon, so the Book of Logic by the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. So this is the Hakdamah, the introduction of the author, the Ramchal. So he says, when we behold the manifold creations of this earth, and the portion that has been given each of them, we see that God has given man the greatest portion of all. So for man has a tremendous role to refine and to bring to fruition the entire world. We can go so far as to say that in relation to man's role, God's creation itself was merely a sort of beginning in a potential state, but the actual fulfillment is completely given over to man. Our sages of blessed memory have already awakened us to this truth, and they're saying that all that was created in the 6 days of creation needs improvement. Wheat must be ground into flour. Lupine must be made sweet, and so on. So Bereshit Rabbah Parsha 11:6. So further we find that Turner Rufus, the Roman, once asked Rabbi Akiva, "What is finer, the handiwork of the Almighty or that of human hands?" And he answered him, "The works of flesh and blood are finer." Then to prove his point, he brought him sheaves of grain and fine wheat cakes and said to the Roman philosopher, "Which of these is finer?" In fact, it is apparent to everyone that although all things follow their natural laws when they are left in a state of nature, nevertheless, they cannot reach perfection without man's exertion and work. So when man intervenes, he helps their nature and guides their development in a proper direction so that the result is certain to be more perfect and refined. This is an obvious principle. By way of example, the fruit of any tree left to its nature without cultivation will not equal in taste and beauty the fruit of a tree which is cultivated. Even though the tree will yield some small fruit according to its particular kind, also the soil which is not cultivated, neither manured nor plowed, will not yield produce at all, or at best will provide only lean and imperfect produce. This is the general rule, except for a few instances where the natural fertility is so great that there is hardly any need of work. In conclusion, the Creator, blessed is He, has left room for us to distinguish ourselves as much as we are able by perfecting through the labor that which has been given us by nature. So furthermore, the uncultivated tree and the uncultivated soil provide a metaphor which applies to the intellect of man itself. Even with the ability to reason, which is inherent in it by nature, the uncultivated intellect will be like the tree, which is not cared for, and like the soil, which is neglected. For even though the mind does not stop producing many thoughts, like the tree that does not stop giving the fruit which is particular to it, the untrained intellect will still not equal the mind that is cultivated, just like the fruit of a wild tree is not equal to the cultivated fruit. Thus, the intellect needs training and study in every element of reality, that is, in all those concepts which are its occupation, for without this the intellect will not fulfill its potential. Also, it is necessary to study the process of understanding itself, so that the mind can grasp ideas in a way that is complete and straight, and not lacking or confused. Consequently, to this end, the rabbis before us have labored to arrange the categories of the intellect and to explain its rules correctly, with special consideration for whatever accidents can befall the intellect, both those which lead to lucidity and those which lead to foolishness. What helps the mind to form a true picture and what leads us into false understanding. In this way, we may know what there is to guard against in our thinking so that the intellect will not err, and also what is helpful to aid the mind to grasp the truth. So the whole of this study is what is called the art of logic. Thus, when I saw the great need, which in truth there is for the subject, I chose to arrange this study in a concise form, including as much as seemed necessary for the completeness of the matter. For without the art of logic, it is impossible to enter into the inner chambers of wisdom and to enjoy her subtleties. Most of this work I have compiled from books, which preceded me in other languages, and I have brought it into our language for the benefit of our people. Certain things I have added, subtracted, and changed from what I found before me when it seemed to me more proper. Therefore, gentle reader, stop at each section to consider it well. Take heed to increase your understanding and knowledge, and the study of logic will give pleasure to your spirit.